don't like what the Catholic Church teaches? Well, welcome to the club. I've been there and sometimes still am. This is my story. When I was 19 years old, I came back to the faith of my childhood, and I started to rediscover Catholicism. I started to have a regular sacramental life. I started to pray, and I started to study my faith. It was at this time that I came across an audio talk by Dr. Janet Smith called Contraception, Why Not? And when I heard that talk, I was in a place of my life where the biggest takeaway was contraception was bad. Now, I know she says many other things in there, and it's a beautiful message, but at that time, that's all I heard. Contraception was bad. And I didn't like that message. So I just took that message, set it to the side, and thought, well, when I get married, I'm not going to follow this part of the church's teaching. And then I continued to study my Catholic faith, and I came across this thing, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Particularly, one paragraph stood out to me that was echoing the same things that Dr. Janet Smith was also teaching. Specifically, paragraph 2370, which said, every action which, to render procreation impossible, is intrinsically evil. I didn't like that. I'm like, okay, I got a problem here. This is what the Catholic Church is teaching, but this is what I want. And so there was this tension. And then I started to realize something about this. The Catechism of the Catholic Church wasn't one person's opinion. That the Catechism of the Catholic Church was a summary of the teaching of Jesus Christ, given to the apostles, transmitted through sacred tradition, which involved thousands of the greatest minds, saintly minds of the last 2,000 years, holy men and women writing down their thoughts, reflecting upon the teachings of Jesus, the Pope's writings, all filtered through the ecumenical councils of the church, all stamped with Jesus' promise that he would never leave the church, that the gates of hell would not prevail, and that he would lead his church in the fullness of truth, versus Ken Yazinski's 22 years of wisdom. And I realized something. I get it wrong sometimes. And once was enough when it came to my eternal salvation. So I made a decision. I knew I didn't like everything the church said and taught. By the way, this is a summary of the church's teaching. It's not a standalone document. I realized I didn't like everything in here. But I was going to make a decision to trust what I did not like and then make the effort to find out the why behind the what. I began to see the Catholic Church's teachings not as prohibitions, but as a framework. That if we lived our life within these clearly defined boundaries, then God's blessing would flow into our lives, that the dignity of the human person would be upheld, that there would be right order between the relationship of man and woman, that blessing would flow into society. But if we lived our life outside of this framework and this clearly defined boundary, then great harm comes to the individual, to marriage, to children, to society. And so I saw the church's teachings, there was a shift from these are prohibitions to these are invitations. To live life in a way that's beautiful, that's good, that's true. Years later, I got married to my wife, Janelle. And there was one particular evening where I was working on a talk that I was going to present in a parish, and I was going to share my struggles with the church's teachings on contraception and how I came in communion with the church regarding this. And I asked Janelle, who was beside me, what if I'd never come on board with what the church taught and we got married? Well, then what? And she looked at me and said, well, I would have never married you then. And I realized something. If God had not given me the grace to find out the why behind the what, I would have missed out on the greatest blessing in my life, my wife. And maybe you're sitting there and you're struggling with some of the things the church teaches. My invitation to you is this: find out the why behind the what before walking away. Because my experience is this: everything that the church teaches is reasonable. You see, the question is not if we like what the Catholic Church teaches. The question is it true? Because if something is true, then we should conform our life to it. And when we conform our life to the truth, then our emotions, what we like, start to come in line. You see, there's always going to be something about what the church teaches that we don't like to our fallen nature, because to our fallen nature, sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. For example, prayer. Church teaches we should pray every day. We don't like that sometimes. Why? Because we're lazy. So it's not a matter if something is appealing to our emotional life. The question is it true? We're not called to be emotional Catholics. We're called to be reasonable Catholics. And so I don't see the church's teachings as these prohibitions. No, they're invitations. Invitations to live the abundant life. And this is what Jesus came to give. John 10:10, Jesus said, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. This is the Catholic life. Thank you so much, friends, for watching this video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and bell so that YouTube has to notify you of our next video. And share this video on Facebook. Let's spread the good news of our Catholic faith. And thank you so much to our Patreon members who have allowed us to make these videos possible. You guys are amazing.